In this video, I'll teach you how to go from Instagram stories that look like this to ones that look like this. What's up YouTube? My name is Arthur and I'm a travel enthusiast and a photographer. And at the moment we're traveling around New Zealand. We're deep inside of the bush, as the New Zealanders say. And while traveling around New Zealand, I'm living in a van. So these videos will kind of be in just these random locations because I don't have a place where to film. Anyways, if you just stumbled across this video, we're talking about photography, a little bit about filming here as well. We have a really small community here, so a like on this video would be super helpful, and if you do like what you see and find it helpful, you know, consider subscribing to this channel and becoming a part of this community. That would be awesome. Anyway, sorry about the long intro. Let's just cut to the point. Today we're talking about how to make interesting and engaging Instagram stories. Now, in the intro, which you saw was filmed with my DSLR, but we can take the same principle and apply it when we're filming an Instagram story with our phone. So if you didn't catch up on what's going on, we're going to use something that's called an in-camera transition to make our Instagram stories interesting and engaging. We're going to use in-camera transitions as a tool to tell a story. So an Instagram story is about 15 seconds, and what most people do is they whip out their phones and they just shoot a panorama of what's happening. And in most cases, that doesn't really tell a story at all. So as I said, we're going to use in-camera transitions to link together different clips so that we could use these 15 seconds to actually tell an interesting and engaging story. Now, the best thing about in-camera transitions is that you can do everything on your phone. You don't need a laptop to edit the videos, and you don't need any paid apps to do that. And it only takes about 2 minutes to make a story like the ones that I showed you in the beginning of the video. So anyway, what is an in-camera transition? An in-camera transition is a specific way of filming so that you make a transition with your camera. So in this video, we'll focus on 3 transitions. So the first transition is something that I call the swipe up, and it looks like this. The second one is going to be the shake. It looks like this. And the third one is going to be a half circle, and it looks like this. But there's a ton more in-camera transitions that you can do. So, you know, if you want to see another video specifically about in-camera transitions, drop a comment down below, and I would love to make a video like that. Also, stick around until the end of the video, because I will give you 2 more tips that you can use to make these stories even more engaging and entertaining. Okay, so here's how you actually film these in-camera transitions. So we're gonna use my notebook as an example. This is going to be our phone, because I left my phone in the van, completely forgot about it. So the swipe up transition and the shake transition are really similar. You're going to use the same principle, so this is how you do those. So first of all, open up your camera app, and the way I like to do these is I like to film before I actually do the transition. So I start filming, I know what I'm going to film, I do the transition, I do the motion, I film what I want to film for about 3-4 seconds, and then I swipe up again. So with these transitions, the most important thing is not to go too fast, because if you go too fast, the transition is going to look choppy and it's not going to feel like transition. But at the same time, you don't want to go too slow, because if you go too slow, well, you won't really have a transition, it's just going to look really weird. So you need to test it out a bit and find the sweet spot so that the transition looks fluid. So the way I found it when editing was that the transition roughly needs to be about 0.6 seconds. So it's not a fast movement, it's not a slow movement. Just do it a couple of times, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's easier to try it out. That's the easiest way to understand this. I won't really explain it that well. You just need to give it a go and see how it looks. Now, another important thing to understand here is that if you start the swipe up transition from the bottom, you swipe up and then you keep swiping up, the next transition for the next clip, you want to start at the bottom again and continue swiping up. Because if you will have a transition where the movements go against each other, so you're swiping up and then the next transition you're swiping down, you're not going to have a fluid transition. Now, as I said with the shake, it's pretty much the same thing. You just start filming, you know what you want to film, shake your phone, film what you want to film, shake it again, and move on to the next clip. And as I said, the emphasis here is that you tell a story in 15 seconds. So as in the clip I showed you was where Cynthia was skateboarding through New Zealand. She took her skateboard, she went into the park, she started skateboarding, and then she ended up in a nice place in front of a lake enjoying the view. So that's a short story in 15 seconds. So that's the main emphasis here, that you want to tell a story by using these transitions. If you're hiking a hill, you know, you can start at the bottom, show the hike, and then the top of the hill. And you can do that in 15 seconds, and it's going to be way more interesting than 5 different stories of 15 seconds of panoramic movements of your surroundings. That's not really a story, as I already said. Anyway, the third in-camera transition is a bit different, the half circle. And here, you're kind of relying on hitting the ground, so it feels like your phone is going through the ground, but it's actually really simple. So what I do is the same thing. I start filming before I do the transition. I put my phone on the ground, I do a quick motion up, film what I want to film, and then I do a quick motion down to the ground. And what I like to do here is when I'm holding the phone, I like to hit the ground with my hand. Don't hit your phone, you know, you don't want to damage your phone, but I like to hit the ground with my hand, so it's gonna give it a bit more shake and it's going to feel a bit more realistic. It's going to give the effect that the phone is actually going through the ground. And the same thing here. You don't want to go too fast and you don't want to go too slow. Most people are going to go too fast when they try out these transitions, and it's not going to work. If that's the case, just go a bit slower and you should be good. As you see, the filming part, super simple. Just make sure you have enough clips to fill up the 15 seconds. You know, the story can be 9, 8, 6 seconds even if you want to, but you really want to maximize the time, the 15 seconds, to tell an interesting story, so you can have more clips to show off more information and just, you know, to have a more interesting story to tell. So anyway, let's move on to the editing portion, and that's super simple as well. So about editing, I actually need to go back to my van to grab my phone. It's just going to be way easier to explain to you how to edit these clips while I can actually do that on my phone. There it is. Home sweet home. So this is how you edit the videos. I use an app that's called INSHOT, and the reason why I use this app, because, well, first of all, it's free, and second of all, you can export your videos without a watermark with the free version, which is awesome for somebody like me who doesn't like to pay for stuff. That's great. The only thing though is you need to watch a short ad to do so, but hey, that's better than paying in my books. So when it comes to editing with this app, it's really simple. First of all, just import the clips that you're going to use, and once you've done that, click on the first clip. At the beginning of the first clip, you probably won't have any transition, so you won't need to do anything there. But you need to do something with the end of the clip, where is your first transition. So the way I do it is I skim through the video, and what I'm looking for is the first second when the transition starts. So when making these stories, I found out that the best duration to have a smooth transition is about 0.6 seconds. So what you want to do is you want to have 0.3 seconds of the transition at the end of the video and 0.3 seconds of transition at the beginning of the next video. So the easiest way to find the right moment when to cut is to skim through, and you'll see that on the timeline you will see that it shows 2.9, 3 seconds, 3.1, and you can use those as a time reference, so that if you see that your transition starts at 3.3 seconds, for example, you want the transition to end at 3.6 seconds, so you will cut there and then go on to the next clip. Do the same thing. Find where the transition starts in the beginning of the clip and then go 0.3 seconds back. So when you do both of the cuts, you should end up with a smooth transition. And it doesn't matter if you have the swipe up transition or if you have the shake transition, it's going to work with both of those. Now with the half circle transition, it's a bit different because you want to cut at the moment when the camera hits the ground. So you're gonna cut there or maybe 0.1 seconds after that, but you really need to see depending on the situation, so you'll have to experiment with that. Usually you will have to cut right at the second when the camera hits the ground to make the smooth transition. And as I said, this is super simple, this is super easy. Filming it is really fast and editing it is really fast as well. Like, it takes about 2 minutes to make a story like this. Once you get the hang of it, maybe even faster. So if you do plan on using this method, I would love to see your stuff and what you can come up with. So you can reach out to me on Instagram or tag me in these stories, whatever, send them to me on Instagram. I would love to check those out and see what you guys can come up with. Now here's about the 2 extra tips that you can use to make these stories even more engaging. As I said, the last 2 things that you can do to make the stories even more interesting and engaging. First of all, when you're filming the videos, think about different camera angles and different types of shots. So what I'm talking about here is that you can have a close-up, you can have a wide shot, which is, you know, is going to show the surrounding, is going to give a better understanding where you are, and you have mid-range shots as well. So think about it this way, when you're doing something, you're going somewhere, whatever, you can have the wide shots to introduce the location, you can have the mid-range shots to show what's going on and, you know, to show the meat of the story, so to speak, and then you can have the close-up shots, and the close-up shots can serve as ambience. You know, if you're in a forest when it's raining, you can have a close-up shot with some rain on a leaf to emphasize the fact that it's raining outside. So use different types of camera angles and use different types of shots to tell a better story in 15 seconds. So the second thing you can do is just add audio effects, and this is the easiest way to make the story way more engaging. So the way you can do that is by getting different types of effects from YouTube, but you can also get audio effects in the app as well. There's a ton of music, there's a ton of audio effects that you can use for your videos to emphasize what's going on. So for example, you can use audio effects for the transitions to make them more, well, not really seamless, but you know, if you've seen anybody using a transition, there's probably a sound effect underneath it that makes it more realistic, so to speak. Or the second way that I like to use audio effects is to better show the location or the surrounding to make the story more engaging. So for example, if you're in a forest, you could add ambient noises of a forest, or you can add birds chirping in the background. So you can use all of these small things that are really seamless to somebody who's watching the story, but these small things can go a really long way and just give the extra edge to your stories and make them extra interesting. So these are my 2 extra tips on how to make your stories even more engaging and even more interesting. So I hope you found this video helpful and interesting, and that's kind of all from me, because we need to get going. We need to find a place where we're going to spend the night, and I need to edit this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna go and search for Cynthia so we could move on and do some other stuff. And remember, if you did enjoy this video and found it helpful, drop a like, leave a comment, do all of these good things, and I'll see you in the next video.